Hello, everyone. We are a small but an intimate group today. My name is Jennifer Ray Myers. I serve as the founder and president of the Raymond Banks Away with Words Foundation. Very briefly, I do want to talk a little bit about the foundation and today's purpose in terms of the Self-TLC Masterclass. So the Raymond Banks Away with Words Foundation primary mission is to empower, and that's through the use of expressive art. So poetry, storytelling, writing, public speaking, as well as communication, health, and education. My background as a speech pathologist, as well as a neuropsychologist, has led myself to wanting to create an organization that uplifts us and our community through the power of words. And so today, the Self-TLC or Truth, Love, and Care Masterclass aims to do just that, providing us with the resources and tools we need to, one, really understand who we are so we can love ourselves to the best and to the fullest of our ability, and then also in that taking care of ourselves, particularly in the theme of the summit, Healing City, Baltimore. It's so important. As I say on airplanes, you have to put the mask on yourself before you help others. I would argue the same can be said here. When we are dealing with a community that is in need of healing, it's important to take care of self first, so that we can then take care of our community. So to that end, we'll go ahead and get started. And today we'll discuss 3 avenues of self-truth, self-love, and self-care. And there's 3 activities meant to be engaging and insightful, meant to be conversational, but most importantly, meant to be a safe space for us to discuss these things. If you feel comfortable sharing, great. Again, safe environment, safe space. If you don't, that's perfectly fine as well. Our main goal here is to make sure that you leave with strategies, enlightenment, and empowerment during today's discussion. So the first part, self-truth. We're going to try and at least start the discussion and definition of who are you? Who am I? And so we have this thinking activity. So hopefully you have something to write with. And if you don't, but you have a good memory, you can also store it in your mind. I want you to think of your favorite color, animal, body of water, and write 3 adjectives to describe those things. And then for the last one, the white room, I want you to think of 3 adjectives that you would use to describe a white room. So I'll give you a few minutes to kind of think about that. So when you think of your favorite color, what 3 words come to mind? Why do you like it? Well, what makes you gravitate towards it? The same with your favorite animal, body of water, and then again, words to describe how you feel or what you think about when you think of a white room. I'll give you about 5 minutes to do that. I also want to note, don't think too hard about it. What first comes to mind when you think of these things? It's not a trick question or a trick activity.
Oh, it looks like you're on mute. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So I think we all have our words, so we'll go ahead to the next part of this particular activity. So we have the adjectives for color, animal, body of water, and white room. And so this is a thinking activity that I will say, as a neuropsychologist, I do enjoy presenting as a more relaxing, calming, not as anxiety-inducing activity. So we like to say the adjectives that you use to describe your favorite color is how you see yourself. The adjectives you use to describe your favorite animal is how you think others perceive you. The adjectives you use to describe your favorite body of water are feelings towards relationships and intimacy. And then the adjectives you use to describe a white room are your feelings towards death. And so give you a beat or two to kind of process that for a second. And then if anyone is willing to share, myself included, I'll break the ice, about which one kind of resonated with you the most, or maybe even the least, and why, if you're willing to share. And like I said, I'll go first to kind of break the ice. So my favorite color is blue, and words that I use to describe it typically are calming, versatile, and fun. And I do like to think that I'm versatile, or maybe a more human word or adjective would be resourceful. I don't know how much fun I am these days, but I do try to have fun every now and again. And then the last one I said was calming. And while I'm often busy and doing things left and right, I do enjoy and do like to think at my core, I like to be a very calming or peaceful person. Does anyone else wish to share their thoughts or their words?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Kathy?
Yeah. So for the animal, so for how others perceive me, my words were, the animal was a cat, but so the words were fierce, playful, and loving. And it's interesting, especially in contrast to my favorite color is also blue. So I had calm and cool and friendly in there too. But in terms of the augmented nature of those outwardly perceived feelings for me, it's interesting.
Yeah. Would you agree with that? Do you think that your peers, your friends, family see you as fierce in some ways?
I would. It mostly depends on, what situation and how mad I am. But yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. So fierce when you have to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Anybody want to talk about the white room? And for those who just joined us, the activity here was to write 3 adjectives as they relate to your favorite color, favorite animal, favorite body of water, and then adjectives to describe your thoughts about if you were in a white room. Just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to comment here. Okay. And again, this is meant to be very lighthearted. I don't want to jump right into the thick of things, but I do hope that with this particular activity, you start to really think about the adjectives that you use to describe yourself, how others you think may perceive you, and think about how much you agree with that, how much you don't, and is that a good thing, maybe a not so good thing, something you may strive towards, something that you're working to improve, etc. And so really just thinking of ways that aren't so brash when you start to really want to reflect and think about, okay, who am I at my core? And so this is kind of an easier, lighthearted way to do that, but hopefully get you into the mindset of really sitting down and trying to define who you are to yourself, who you want to be to others, and do those align. They don't necessarily have to be the same. And Kathy, you made a great point where there was kind of an opposite, if you will, between your color and animal, but that's not necessarily a bad thing if they complement one another. And so keeping that in mind, and as I mentioned in the beginning, knowing who you are and feeling comfortable in that will allow you to better self-love and better self-care. When you don't quite know who you are, who you want to be, it makes the other two, the love and care, a little bit more difficult to achieve. And so let's talk a little bit about strategies to master self-truth. The first thing is definition. The first thing is really setting a parameter, if you will, of who you are. And also to that, who you are not. And that's really important because it provides a more comprehensive or whole self when we talk about, who am I, defining my identity, etc. Oftentimes when someone asks you, who are you? Or, tell me about yourself. The first thing we say is, what occupation we have, or the fact that we, serve some role in a family union. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, etc. And while those are all important things, do those actually serve as a definition of who you are, right? So I can be a psychologist, I can be a founder of a nonprofit, I can be a daughter, but underneath that, I am a giver. That's who I am at my core. And that speaks to those kind of labels that I have, those roles that I play. I am resourceful, right? Again, playing into those roles that I play. And by doing that, by finding those adjectives that really identify you, and also kind of eliminating those things that aren't you, right? So I am not quick to temper. And that's important for me to know, because if I do find myself in a situation where I'm upset or easily angered, now I have to kind of take a step back and understand better the environment or context that's kind of bringing me out of myself. If I'm strong and I've been hurt, so now I don't feel as strong, I feel weak, I feel helpless, knowing that that's not who I am at my core, knowing that I'm a strong person, I am not a weak person, again, helps me to follow through with that self-love and that self-care when you know who you are and who you are not. The second thing I would encourage us to do is to create a self-vision board. So we think of, vision boards, we cut out, back in the day now, magazine photos, maybe if you're doing it on a computer, you're copying and pasting, some images from a website. I challenge you to do the same for yourself. So if somebody were to look at your self-vision board, could they tell the type of person you are? Could they tell your core, your story, really based on the images, the words that you would put on said board? In creating that vision board, place it somewhere that you see often to be a constant reminder of who you are. So regardless of the things that are happening to you, regardless of the things that may be said to you, knowing kind of who you are, where you plan to go, etc., is really powerful in ensuring that the constant daily challenges, worries, maybe even the sudden or unexpected challenges and worries don't define who you are. You've already established that boundary, that parameter. And the reason why I say that about the definition and defining who you are and knowing what you are and what you are not, and vision and the like, is oftentimes when one experience trauma or one experience a significant level of hurt, it kind of disrupts the whole kind of paradigm or what we thought we knew about the world around us, what we thought we knew was truth. And as a result, start that infiltrate who we are as a core. And so if anyone has seen the movie Inception, where you have this, it's a movie with Leo DiCaprio, and everybody as they go through various dreams has this token that kind of reminds them, like, this reminds me of the reality, that everything else is a dream, but this token reminds me of the reality. And I argue the same thing here by establishing a definition of who you are, creating a self-vision board. That allows you to remain constant in a world that is ever changing and can sometimes be cruel. The last three things are pretty self-explanatory. So trying new things. We are always evolving, or at least we should be evolving. And so while the definition of who you are and who you will be is important in establishing a level of foundation or grounded truth, it should not stop you from exploring and finding out, are there other aspects of you that you didn't even know about? Are there other aspects that you are like, okay, I wasn't sure if I was about that, but now I know I am by trying new things. Unplugging is also an important one. And I could probably say this for everything that we'll discuss today. We do a lot of comparing when we have access to social media, we have access to other people. And sometimes it's important to just take a step back and enjoy ourselves a bit. And then last, but certainly not least, is seeking support and resources. The journey to self-truth doesn't have to be one of solely yourself. It could be with other people who are also seeking their own self-truths. It can also be having a support system that is encouraging you and motivating you to really discover who you are and being confident in that. And so never be afraid to seek support, to seek resources on your journey. So I've done quite a bit of rambling here, but just want to invite a conversation about any of these strategies, or if anybody would like to contribute their own in terms of mastering self-truth.
Hello?
Hi, Kyle, is it?
Yep, Kyle's my name. Thanks for letting me speak here. And I just first want to say I appreciate what you're sharing, and it does resonate with me. I've been personally on an inner journey, exploring all these things for the past 7 years, probably. I've discovered a lot about myself and a lot of things about, who I am, like you were saying, what other people think who I am. But I'm starting to discover a deeper layer of identity beyond the stories, beyond the professions and the labels, like you're saying. And that's what's really caught my curiosity. And my exercises to explore include self-inquiry, self-reflection, a lot of meditation, and just being very open to everything and looking outside of myself at the entire world as like a reflection of myself. And so when I feel something or see something out there, I look at that as like the universe is telling me something's going on inside of myself, and it gives me an opportunity to look at that and explore that and find a lesson. And so like one thing I always do, especially in this is difficult, in the hard situations, is to ask, like, what can I learn from this? What is this, issue or whatever trying to teach me or tell me? But I'm starting to become aware of myself as awareness. On the deepest level of identity, it's just pure awareness. And when I tap into that, it feels like the most solid truth. And that's something that, I just wanted to share. Just wanted to share, start a conversation.
Awesome. No, definitely. Awareness is key. Awareness is key. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And being open, and I think you mentioned kind of through meditation, being open to being aware, right? So taking in those feelings and allowing yourself to feel, being aware of those feelings, of the things that you're experiencing, and going through that as hard and as challenging as it may be sometimes. So yes, spot on. I agree. Definitely should be one of the strategies on this list is awareness. Absolutely. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, great. Let's move on to self-love. So that first segment about self-truth was asking, who are you? At your core, who are you? Beyond the labels, beyond society, who are you? And as Kyle mentioned, the awareness of who you are not, in the context of this place we call the world. The next step is self-love. So once you get, and I would argue you're always defining yourself, right? So there's never a, okay, period, full stop, we're done. But in understanding who you are and feeling confident in that, can you really allow yourself to really love yourself in the way that you deserve to be? And so this question is posed of why you, why love you, why, treat you like the greatest being ever imaginable, right? And so that's what I want you to think about. And again, is great. The more sentences you can attach to something, the better. However, if you want to just think about it, that's just as good in this particular context. But the question or the prompt that I'm posing to you is defining moments in your life. Thinking about all of the really significant moments of your life and choosing one that you think helped to shape your self-confidence and growth. And there's some sub-questions in terms of helping to facilitate that reflection. By no means it meant to be a checklist of, okay, did I answer all of these, but more so as a guide. So in thinking about that defining moment, why was it defining? What was it? What made it so pivotal for you? How did it help you love yourself or even a part of yourself? Again, this is by no means meant to be a comprehensive exercise. So even if that moment didn't completely change your life, did you take something from it? Again, Kyle, you're spot on here. Is there something you learned from it? How did it illuminate parts that need to be loved within yourself? And then taking what you learned to grow. So I'll give you a few minutes, give you about 4 minutes or so to really think about some of those things. And then we can discuss. About 1 more minute. And again, this is certainly meant to be a starter, get you thinking, wheels turning, not necessarily meant to be an end all, nice wrapped in a beautiful bow. Okay, so for this reflection, does anybody wish to share their defining moment and maybe one aspect that really helped? Yes, Kyle.
I knew it right away. I tell the story often. Is January 2014. I was sitting at home. This is the pivotal point of my life where there was a fork in the road, and I made a very conscious decision to take a certain path. I was sitting at home after work, watching TV, drinking a beer. It was very boring, normal night. And I was sitting there just like reflecting on my life. And I had a realization that I had achieved everything that everyone else outside of me had told me I was supposed to do, mainly my parents and my family. You're supposed to go to school. You're supposed to get a degree. You're supposed to get a good job with real benefits and all this stuff. And you have to do this. You have to do that. I had this realization that I did it, but I still felt like empty and lost. I didn't feel like I had, achieved or reached, like I don't know, a point of just achievement. And so I asked myself, well, what would make me feel fulfilled? And I responded, well, when I do good things in the world, when I help people, I feel good. And that's all I really want. When I feel good, I feel fulfilled. So at that point, I made a conscious decision that I was going to spend the rest of my life doing good. And I didn't know what that meant. But fast forward 7 years later, it's led me to start a company that is based in spreading good vibes and healing. I own a company called Do Good Video Productions, and we use video as a healing modality. We tell stories, and by telling those stories and sharing messages, we find that healing can be achieved. And it's led me on a very deep spiritual journey, but it all started this pivotal moment where I realized living my life for other people was not ever going to fulfill me. And that's what led me down this journey to finding fulfillment for myself in a very personal way.
Wow, I don't know if you're looking at my notes, Kyle, but I appreciate your story. And I think there's a few really important themes in your story. One, that it's not this grandiose, like, lightning striking, and then you realize, this is my purpose, right? It's you literally sitting, drinking a beer, and then just having a moment of clarity, if you will. I think another theme that's important is that it's a journey. So you mentioned that defining moment was back in 2014. And I'm sure that there were some, questioning and am I doing the right thing? And what was I thinking? But you finally made it to at least one part of the journey that you can say, okay, I feel good here. I mean, it may not be the end, but it's certainly a good stopping point, if I can argue that. I think another important theme that you noted was this kind of conflict between what was expected of you and what was fulfilling for you. And as someone who can say, I had a checklist as well of go to school, get a degree, get a decent job, especially coming from where I came from. And like you, Kyle, once that checklist was all checked out, I was like, okay, this didn't feel as great as I thought it was going to feel. I don't feel as accomplished, and to use your word, fulfilling. So I definitely can connect with that. And I'm sure a lot of us can, where we do all the right things or do all the things that we think we're supposed to do and still find something missing. And I think that goes back to another theme of really trying to find out what is fulfilling. And that speaks to understanding who you are and what fulfills you. And we'll talk a little bit about that in terms of self-love and self-care, in terms of when you know who you are, you can better do the things that are fulfilling. You can better love yourself, better care for yourself. Did anyone else want to share or have any comments here?
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you. I really liked what Cal said. It resonated with, especially the idea of being told what will make you happy versus being asked what will make you happy. Like in terms of like, it would be such a gift if parents or people, in authoritative positions could ask kids and teenagers, like, hey, what really lights you up? Like, what's your thing? But yeah, and my experience, I kept thinking about, like, it kept coming back to my wife passed away in 2018, and I just kept thinking about that moment where I stood up at her funeral and was able to see into the audience of all these people. You know, like it was such a hard thing. It was such an impossibly, mind-blowingly, like I never thought I'd be in a situationally hard thing. And I really, if you had asked me before if I could survive something like that, I would have said no. But like, I just remember getting up and standing up in front of that group of people and just seeing all these people that, you know, my wife and I had, you know, just either helped or been helped by or been, you know, friends with or anything, just all sorts of different kinds of deep relationships with. And just knowing that they had my back in that moment, you know, it just is like, it was such a cool thing. And I don't know, to me, it spoke to a little bit of like, you're doing things in a good way. You know, I may not be perfect, but at least I'm like doing the things that I want to be doing, which is really happy. So.
Right, absolutely, Kathy. And thank you for sharing that, and my condolences. And I hope that you felt just like how important you are to people, right? And how important your wife was and is to people. And I think sometimes, you know, the world is a pretty big place, and the hustle and bustle of things, we don't realize just how meaningful, you know, a kind word we have said or an action we have done can influence and impact people that we know and people that we don't know. So I think that's really powerful that in terms of the story that you shared, and can also help in that journey of self-love. When you realize just how important, how needed, how loved you are from others, hopefully that helps with the love juice that you fill yourself with. Thank you again for sharing, Kathy. Definitely,
No problem.
definitely can understand. So with self-love, some strategies to master this part of the self journey. Defining your love language. So, you know, what's your love language was such a hot topic some time ago in terms of what you need from a partner, or I think there's even one for work, etc. But understanding what you need to do in order for yourself to feel loved is important. Is that going shopping and just being free to buy whatever you want, whether it's expensive things, or I myself like to dabble at the Dollar Tree every now and again? Is it words of encouragement? Is it self-talk where you're literally standing in the mirror and saying, you are great, you are beautiful, you are powerful, and just needing that pick-me-up? Is it you just being to yourself, lighting some candles, putting on some good music, and just vibing? What is it that you need to do that shows yourself that, hey, I love you, I'm thinking of you. Yeah, you have a lot going on, but I'm making time for you. And it may seem like a weird concept, but again, talking about healing and trauma, we often are so quick to help others that we forget to help ourselves sometimes and love ourselves. So that's important. And kind of a segue to dating yourself. And so for me, it's creating a routine that I know every Friday I'm going to get my nails done, or knowing that every morning I'm getting up. It's a little too early for me, but I'm going to do it and go work out because I know that's important in the long run. Celebrating small victories. You know what? If I can get out of the bed by 7 a.m., I'm gonna tell myself good job. And it may just be okay at 7 o'clock. What's the big deal? But for someone who does not like getting up, it's important. And oftentimes we are our own worst critics. So we need to be mindful that as much as we you know, critique ourselves and say, okay, we need to push harder, we need to do better, we need to, you know, be more organized or stop procrastinating. And sometimes it's warranted. We also need to celebrate, hey, you got up twice in a row this day without snoozing that alarm button. Hey, you got everything on your to-do list being done. Like we're rocking it. And being okay with that and not feeling weird about celebrating yourself. Forgiving is such an important thing. And I don't think you can say that too many times over. And whether that's forgiving people who have hurt you or hurt people that you care about, or whether it's forgiving yourself for things that you have allowed to happen or have done to other people. Forgiveness is such a barrier to healing. Forgiveness, when you don't forgive, again, regardless of if it's someone else or yourself, it's really hard to master self-love. And the last thing, and this will be, there's no spoiler alert, it'll be this for self-care as well, seeking support and resources, never feeling ashamed or afraid to find someone or something that will allow you to really master self-love. So whether it's seeking counsel, seeking friends, seeking resources, materials, strategies, attending a seminar such as this, all the things for empowerment is important. Done rambling here. Any comments, questions, strategies that we should add here? Okay, great. And the last one is self-care. How are you? So we worked on trying to define ourselves. We worked on, really celebrating and loving ourselves. The last thing is self-care. So for this activity, there's a few images here. I want you to take a moment or two, I'll give you about a minute to pick out which photo looks like well. Like when you think of the word, someone is well, I'm doing well. Which picture resonates most with you? So I'll give you a beat or two to pick your photo, your image. Okay, so keep that image in your mind because we're going to quickly go through the various types of well-being or wellness. And this kind of speaks a little bit to what I talked about in terms of finding your love language for yourself. And the same thing is, while all the things that I'm getting ready to discuss are important as a whole, there's going to be certain things that should be priority for you in terms of your uniqueness. And so using these images, there's research that has looked at kind of the different types of well-being or wellness. And there was a total of 7 that has been pretty established based on research. And we'll quickly go through them all here. So the first one is physical well-being. So if you picked a photo with the individual doing push-ups, that means that for you, self-care, wellness is keeping active, being mobile, not sitting and being sedentary. If you pick the image of the woman playing the crossword puzzle, it's intellectual well-being. So stimulating your brain, doing things that are thought-provoking, that might be a priority to you. If you chose environmental well-being or the image of the person in the room with the plants, creating organization. I am definitely someone that it is hard for me to do anything if I'm in clutter or in mess. I love to organize, love to clean. For parents, probably very therapeutic for those of us who remember getting up on Saturday mornings, having to clean. Emotional well-being. So if you picked up the picture with the woman with a beautiful curls smiling, being able to release your feelings, vent, whether it's talking to someone or writing something down, that's your priority in terms of what wellness or self-care looks like. Emotional, social well-being, staying connected, and that's beyond just liking photos on social media. So that picture with a group of friends. So being connected with other people, establishing deep and meaningful relationships is what self-care or well-being might look like to you. Financial well-being, so that's the 2 individuals with one holding the money, maintaining a healthy budget, being able to live within your means comfortably and not being stressed with budget and finances. And then spiritual well-being. So the group of women who are posing, meditating, so maintaining inner balance, whether that's through mindfulness, yoga, meditating, anything to really get yourself balanced and a sense of inner peace. So those are the different types of wellness or well-beings. Again, all of these are important, but for some of us, there are certain ones that are more of a priority than others. Does anyone wish to share which image they chose and if that makes sense in their lives? No pressure. Okay, so again, take this and really think about that when you are trying to figure out ways to self-care. What does wellness look like to you, and what are activities you can do that lend itself or align with that? And so some strategies for mastering self-care, defining your well-being, again, going back to that activity. For me, exercising is good, but not my favorite to do self-care. So I may pick something else. It's likely that environmental well-being. So making sure my space is organized so that I feel better. So I feel empowered. Establishing a routine. So self-care should be just as integrated in your life as brushing your teeth, as making the bed, as going to work. If you don't create space for self-care, then it becomes optional. And at this point, particularly in the context of healing and trauma and just wanting to improve yourself and be your best self, it has to be part of your routine. Harnessing the power of no. This is probably something we've all heard, but it really is important. Being able to say no to situations, to people, to environments that aren't for the betterment of you, that aren't going to lend itself to your purpose, self-love, self-care. No, and being okay with that and letting know, and that's it, without explanation, being enough is also important. Practicing healthy habits. So again, while for me organization is important, I still should practice physical health activities. I still should engage in finance, well-being and health. Should also engage in spiritual health. Those things are important. And practicing them so that they also become part of a routine. And then lastly, as always, seeking support and resources as they are needed. Now we are a few minutes over time, so I'll go ahead and kind of give a few quick liners here. Self-truth, self-love, self-care, very, very important. In order to care for yourself, you have to love yourself. And in order to love yourself, you have to really know who you are and what you stand for. I do hope that these strategies will help you in that journey. And as I said, not comprehensive, but meant to be just little gems to help you along the way in terms of just healing and just general day-to-day. If you want to know more about us, again, my name is Jennifer Myers. You can certainly visit our website at www.raymondbanksfoundation.org. You can email us at contact@raymondbanksfoundation.org as well. We also have a phone and Instagram. We provide free programs and resources. So if you know someone or someones who are in need of a master class or any of the other programming we offer, we'd be happy to do it. Thank you again so much and enjoy the rest of your time at the summit.
Thank you. This is really well put together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate your contributions.